Good day, everyone. This is Pineleaf Needles, and welcome to DDO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in DDO and here at DDO Players. And please welcome my co-host from Ravenloft, Draculetta.
You said Ravenloft.
Da, 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 da.
Can we just skip everything and go to the end of the show and talk about? Never mind.
No,
how's it going?
No. Patience, my Draculetta.
But I've been waiting so long.
Yeah, I know.
There's a teaser for the
Let's begin
later on in the show, folks.
Yes. Let's begin with the producer's letter, because we have the producer's letter where they were discussing what's coming up for the spring.
Yes, this kind of came out of left field. We knew it was coming, but we didn't know exactly when it was coming. And then Friday afternoon, it was like, boom, here's the producer's letter from executive producer Sutherland. He starts off by saying, and I'm going to read this verbatim from the letter, one of the first things I wanted to mention was that I want to do these letters more frequently. You've been getting yearly producer's letters, but I like to speak more often to the community. So instead of a year-long list, I'd like to give us room to respond to your wants through the year. That means this letter will focus on the quarter ahead, and I will be back in the spring with an update. And then he goes on to talk about what transpired in 2015. We don't need to bring that up because we have talked about that ad nauseum, actually.
Yes. All through 2015.
Yeah, exactly. So you can, we do have a link in the show notes for the producer's letter if somehow you missed it and you haven't read it. And then he goes on to say the main focus of this quarter will be one of DDO's biggest milestones, the 10th anniversary. We'll be throwing a big party towards the end of February with gifts, prizes, events, and surprises. We will debut a free multi-character level dungeon, similar to the way our Night Rebels dungeons work. That will be a tongue-in-cheek story featuring some of DDO's most popular and enduring characters and NPCs.
Ooh, does that mean we are going to be seeing Aerie again?
Who knows who's going to be in it? I know a lot of people were saying they want to see Jeets again, so hopefully Jeets...
Oh, yeah, we can't have an anniversary party without Jeets.
Jeets and
Salinas.
Salinas, yeah, of course. So I guess we'll see. But the other thing about this dungeon that I just went, huh? It's also going to give you the opportunity to defeat some devs in battle. Yes, I plan to try to kill you in games, Sutherland says. It's taking lessons from me now, I see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's all they said about it, so I don't know if it's going to be, they're going to be like NPCs that are going to be named after the devs, and you have to fight them, or at certain times, the devs are going to actually take control of that NPC in game. I don't know how it's going to work. I'm sure we'll find more information, but that's kind of interesting.
All right. And with update 30, I noticed that the reason the new the new loot system didn't fit too well with the Caneth crafting, it's because they're revamping Caneth crafting.
Yes, the new random loot system kind of broke Caneth crafting. So that is up in update 30. That is going to be the biggest part of it. Well, actually, the second biggest part of it. The biggest part is his words, not mine, long-anticipated G race. I'm not going to say the word.
I see. I was waiting for you to go and play the sound. Yes.
No, they're coming. They're coming for you.
They are coming in update 30. And also, we're going to get a deep G iconic as well.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't it last week where I said, oh, please don't?
Yes, it was. As a matter of fact. Sorry, Pineleaf. Sorry to break that to you. Yeah. And then Severlet also says we're bringing out the Bug Zapper in the coming weeks to get rid of some of the things that we've been hearing from you about. We'll be previewing much of Update 30 in the coming weeks on Lamania. As always, we look forward to your feedback. And in the producer's letter, they do have a early prototype of what the little G's are going to look like. And all I'm going to say is I hope this is a way early prototype, Because, wow, that's all I'll say. We'll have this linked in the show notes so you can see this picture. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'll have the picture up during this section. But they're interesting, all right? And if you look at the size reference, they're not that much smaller than a halfling, which in
I
pen
didn't think I would have thought that a halfling would have been smaller.
I was just about to say, in pen and paper, I'm pretty sure that halflings are actually smaller than gnomes.
Oh,
So,
but they have them pretty much. Oh, that's a halfling that he's standing next to.
yeah,
I guess I thought they were showing a male and female.
no, it's a halfling. Yeah, they're only showing the male of them. And yeah, they're pretty much, maybe the halfling might be a tad bit smaller, but anyway. So
It's hard to tell with that.
you can check that out, but there is our first Producer's Letter of the year. We'll get one in the spring as we're doing quarterly Producer's Letters now, which is nice to see that they're trying to communicate more. That is always a very good thing.
Right. Now let's head into patch 1 to update 29. And what did they fix this time?
This was a big Legendary Green Steel patch. That's what a lot of this did. Some Legendary Green Steel damage over time effects now have cooldowns. Acid damage now has a half-second cooldown, and the Magma has a quarter-second cooldown. That basically was because some of the Legendary Green Steel effects were a little bit OP, as they say. So they're trying to get them in line to what they should be. Some other Legendary Green Steel changes as well. We have all the stuff linked in the show notes if you actually want to read it. Monsters, the stun for the Inevitable's Thunder Punch is now properly considered a stun for the purpose of the stun immunity. The Magefire cannons no longer express their love for the Pirates of the Thundersea epic when they hit you. No clue what that means, but I love when they have funny little patch notes. Also, there was, I think the biggest thing other than the green steel was there were some changes to Legendary Shroud. There is no longer an extra chest in part 1 of Legendary Shroud. Eritricos now uses his delayed blast fireball much more frequently than he does Meteor Swarm. Hit points and damage reductions have been reduced for the portals in part 1, and raid groups must now done all of the prior quest objectives before looting the chests in the Shroud.
What, they're being allowed to loot it before?
Well, yeah, there was a, I'm trying to think of how I word it without using the E word. There was a way you could get around that and jump up at a certain point, and you could skip a bunch of it and just get to the chest. That is no longer available to do.
Sounds like an E word to me.
It was. It was not working as intended, that is for sure. Tempest Spine did get a little bit of change too. Sorjek now has a proper healing and wards in Legendary Tempest Spine. And the runes that you get in Tempest Spine now drop upon the dungeon exit as well. And that's basically it for the patch. Just some Legendary Raid fixes and the Legendary Green Steel fixes. But the full release notes are up in our show notes, so you can click over and read that to find out exactly what all was fixed, because we kind of skipped over some of it, but you get the drift.
Then let's head into the Players' Council, because applications for the shouldn't this be 2016?
Yeah, I just noticed I messed up when I did this, yeah.
Yes, applications for the 2016 DDO Players' Council are now open. And if you don't know what the Players' Council is, it is an advisory panel of a group of players who give feedback, very early feedback during development on the production of the game. And there are, of course, some requirements for nominees. And what are these requirements?
You must maintain an active playstyle during the Council's term of service, and active to be determined by Turbine at its sole discretion. Be in generally good standing with no significant violations of Turbine's terms of service, end user license agreements, and community guidelines. Having forum infractions does not necessarily mean you can't apply or serve on the council, but it's something we will consider on a case-by-case basis. Also, council business will be conducted primarily in English. Therefore, we request applicants have the ability to communicate with the team and each other via written and spoken English. And the final one is be able to interact with other members of the council and Turbine employees in a mature, constructive, and mutually respectful manner. And of course, you will have to sign the wonderful NDA as well.
Yes, but unlike some other NDAs that have been done by Turbine, the Council one does allow you to be known to be a member of the, because there have been, for example, in a lot of the betas that they have done, at least on the Lotro side, the NDA included, don't even tell someone that you're doing this.
Right, yeah. And then, once they actually seat the council, Cordovan will put up a post and your in-game name will be listed as a council member. And you do have, if you're listening live to us right now, you have until tomorrow, actually, to get your application in. If you're listening to this on YouTube or the podcast, sorry you missed it. Better luck next year, if you haven't already applied. Or you can nominate somebody else to, if you so wish. There's a link in our show notes to apply if you so wish to.
Now, is there anyone who's not allowed to? Because I know that usually they have this limitation on people doing news things and stuff like that.
Right. It's, for some reason, DDOs is different than Lotros.
Yeah.
I know Lotros, like fan sites and podcasts, can't apply, but in DDO, the Cordovan said the only people that cannot apply are actually what they consider press. So that would be anybody that writes for like one of the big sites like IGN, something like a site like that. But fan sites and bloggers, podcasters can apply. But the thing is, you got to remember you're under NDA. If you're going to be on the council and you say you have a blog or a podcast, you're going to be seeing stuff. If you are selected for the council that you can't talk about. So I think that's going to be extremely hard. That's why I did not apply at all. I was actually thinking about applying for it, but then I thought there's no way, because that would be too difficult. Okay, now, can I talk about this? Can I not talk about this? So it's like, that would be a nightmare, I think. So just keep that in mind. If you do run a fan site, you have a blog, maybe you do YouTube videos, you're a podcast or whatever, you can apply, but you're still under that NDA. That does apply to you as well. So be careful what you talk about.
Very well, then let's head into the 2015 Players Council Redux thread. Redux thread? This is for the previous council.
Yes, this actually started in 2014. A member of the Players Council put one of these up, and they did that this year as well. This just lays down, because I know a lot of people always ask, well, what exactly did the Players Council work on this year? What are they doing? What did they do over the year? Well, this lists everything that they have talked about up through and including to what they have done here in the month of January, which they actually talked about the G tree thoughts, the Deep G's iconic thoughts, the Caneth crafting, the Arcane Archer Part 2, Arcana Technician, I guess that's how you want to say that. And then they had their 2015 Players Council final survey and wrap up. They did all that this month, just in January alone.
So it looks like that perhaps the Players Council is responsible for the massive number of monster manuals that we had this year.
We'll see what the 2016 Council talks about when they can tell us what they talk about.
Very well, then let's head into massively OP article about something about G's and the 10th anniversary?
Yes, this was a nice little write-up that Justin Olivetti, also known as SIP, producer's letter, and then, of course, he talked about how the 10th anniversary is coming up, and then he says, insert, can you believe it, reaction here. And the team is prepping for the big party in February to celebrate, and how the G's are coming as well. It's always nice, I think, to see other sites besides, the fan sites in the community, when you actually get a gaming site such as Massively OP talking about DDO still, because DDO is kind of like fell to the back a little bit in most of the, quote, mainstream gaming press. You don't hear about it much. You hear about Sword Coast Legends and you hear about Neverwinter most of the time. You don't hear much about DDO, so it's great to see Massively still writing about DDO.
And I see this poster. Yeah, I'm Murph Niblin. You probably haven't heard of us. We're pretty underground.
Nice.
And let's head into the DDO Chronicle, issue 174.
LSD 37's Character Builder Lite is now at version 2.0, so click over to check that out. Lidgraph is working on a damage simulator. Click over to help him out on that. And Critty managed to get DDO working with surround sound. Now, I actually read this thread today, and it's pretty amazing what Critty did to get this to work. It's now you have to I'll say this caveat about this whole surround sound. It's software virtual surround sound. It's not true surround sound. But I know in the thread where Critty was talking about this, and a couple people have tried this, they say it sounds pretty decent if you have like a 5.1 or a 7.1 system. So check to see all the steps. It's a little complicated to do because you got to tinker with some software. But if you have a 5.1 or 7.1 surround sound, you might want to check that thread out. Click on that in the spotlight to check that out. Fansite news section of the Chronicle. DDO Cast had a episode where they talked about legendary raids. Bonnie Bew listed when she is going to be streaming on Twitch. She's back to a schedule on Twitch, which is always good to see Bonnie streaming. DDO Wiki Talk is celebrating the Wiki's 10th anniversary, so click over and watch that video. And Jeff over at DDO Gamer wrote about the Res Shrine. So click over to see what Jeff has to say about that. And that is it for our Chronicle, besides our screenshot that's in the Chronicle, which comes to us courtesy of Propane. He took a selfie with a dragon.
Ooh.
And who wouldn't want to take a selfie with a dragon, right?
Right. Right, then let's head into the sales for this week.
25% off the Shared Bank Storage, Character Bank Upgrades, Select Storage Bags, the Shared Bank Platinum Vault. Our free sample of the week through the 21st is the Greater Remove Negative Level Potion. Use the coupon code that is listed in the show notes to get that free sample, one of those per account.
Now let's head into our site news. And there was a poll which was asking, what fantasy book or movie would you like to see converted into a quest chain? And which series or story won this poll?
And this came courtesy to us of a listener last week that was in the chat room, and I see he's in the chat room again. Orion0825 suggested this poll, so we used it. If you have a suggestion, either shout it out to us in our chat room if you're in the chat room, or send it to podcast@ddoplayers.com, and we might use your poll. But the winner of this week's poll was Labyrinth with 26% of the vote at 14 votes. We had 54 total voters. Second place was Discworld at 20%. Princess Bride came in third at 15. Dragon Slayer at 13. Game of Thrones was only at 11%. I figured Game of Thrones would be a little higher than that. Excalibur at 9%. The Dark Crystal, then again, I thought the Dark Crystal would be higher. I love that movie. Was at 9%. The Other was at 7%. Wheel of Time, 7%. 6% for Lady Hawk. And Legend, they tied. Krull had 4%, along with Dune. The Last Unicorn and Poor Neverending Story only had one vote at 2%.
We have a few responses by members of our community. Bonnie Bew wrote, Discworld is winning! All the votes for Discworld! Oh wait, I was the first to vote. Never mind.
Poor Bonnie. Jerry says, The Shining, which that would be awesome. That would be interesting to see how they would actually pull it off if they could do The Shining.
That would be scary. Curtis Lusk said, The Chronicles of the Black Company.
Francis Wright said Willow.
Brack Barefeet says, The Milorian series by David Eddings. I'm currently going through the Belgariad, but I can understand why he chose the Milorian, because I have a feeling, I haven't read the Milorian, but I have a feeling that it's more of a dungeony feel, since the Bulgarian mostly takes place in the more civilized areas. I could see that he'd want the things in the more dungeon-like areas, so to speak.
That would make perfect sense then. And finally, our last comment on this was from Serge, and he said, The Black Cauldron and the Fire and Ice cartoon. And I completely forgot about the Black Cauldron. That is an amazing movie, and that would make an awesome quest and dungeon. So I agree with you.
Then let's go from the dungeon. And as we begin on this, I remember when I first received the first thing released for 5th edition, which was this basic set, which had the basic things for the lower level and the like. And they had a sample dungeon in there. And their sample dungeon was from a familiar spot that hadn't been produced in a while. And I was thinking, and the first thing I was thinking, I mean, I guess Dracula also was saying that, maybe someday they'll come out with something for this for 5th edition. And then we've been getting all these teases from it. And I was wondering, what's the latest tease on the matter?
There is no more tease, Pine Leaf. The tease is over.
What? The tease is over?
Ravenloft is coming to 5e.
Dun,
The
dun,
Curse
dun.
of Strahd will come in March. Wizards of the Coast today announced The Curse of Strahd, a new Dungeons & Dragons adventure set in Castle Ravenloft and the surrounding land of Barovia. And the awesome thing that I could not believe when I read it, this is written in collaboration with Tracy and Laura Hickman. And some people might be saying, so what does that mean? They are the ones that invented Ravenloft. The original authors are involved with this. This is so amazing. The Curse of Strahd pits players against, of course, the vampire Strahd Van Zorgovich. Curse of Strahd will be available to everyone on March 15th. And Chris Perkins said about this, revisiting the land of Barovia with the creators of the original Ravenloft adventure has been a highlight of my professional career. He also goes on to say that Tracy and Laura Hickman created a timeless villain whose faults reflect the darkest traits of humanity. I can't begin to describe what it's like to walk through the halls of Castle Ravenloft with its creators as your guides. Oh my gosh, I am so excited for this. I've just been on cloud nine all day. The other thing about this is the Wizards of the Coast is actually going all out for this over on Twitter. One time a day, you can retweet a tweet they're going to put out, and Madam Eva, the gypsy, will read your fortune if you retweet this. And what she will do is she will draw a random card from her Troca deck, and you will get the picture of the card and your fortune from Madam Eva sent back to you via Twitter. This started today. I've seen a lot of these, and I think we have determined that the Troca deck is 54 cards, and we have seen all 54 cards today because everybody was retweeting that tweet. It was crazy on Twitter today. And speaking of that deck, Gale Force 9 will be producing a Troca deck to use in your own game at home. We will have more information on this soon, and of course, post that. It is up and available for pre-order now. It's on Amazon. I didn't find it at any other online retailers yet, but Amazon does have it up. We have that linked in the show notes. The retail price on Amazon is $49.95. I kind of expect that to go down a little bit, maybe, but that is right about the lines of what Out of the Abyss was when it first came out. So maybe not. It might stay at 50. We'll see. But you can pre-order this now. And then I updated the article later on this afternoon as I seen Geek and Sundry had an interview up with Chris Perkins, and he told Geek and Sundry there is a starter adventure that will go from levels 1 to 3 in Barovia, and the heart of the adventure takes you as high as level 10. The adventure promises paths for players in the Forgotten Realms are in your homebrew worlds looking to add some gothic horror and a little garlic to their campaign. Oh, Chris Perkins, you comedian, you.
Now, my question for you is, how is this going to affect your current campaign?
Well, I'm going to have to hurry up and get them leveled, get them into the tomb, kill them off in the tomb, and then get them into this, because I know Wizards of the Coast is calling this the Curse of Strahd, but I am going to forever now refer to
Revenge
this.
of Strahd?
Yes, exactly. This is Strahd's revenge, so yes. So any of my players that listen to this podcast, you will be going back into Ravenloft, and Strahd will have his revenge. Just remember that.
He's not as easily killed as you think.
So keep an eye on our site. We will, of course, update any more information that we have on this. Was just the major push that Wizards did today. I've seen a lot of different sites talking about it. So hopefully we'll have some new information soon about this. But it's pretty awesome. March 16th, Ravenloft is coming to 5e, finally.
And Wizards of the Coast has announced the Dungeon Masters Guild, or at least launched it.
Well, yeah, they actually launched it and announced it on the same day.
Ooh.
This was kind of been rumored at for a while. You know, back in the 3rd edition days, they had the OGL and the SRD where you could use parts of Wizards IPs. You could make your own mods, make your own adventures or whatever, and you could use their IP freely without worried about getting sued or anything for it.
Right.
Well, they're doing the same thing now with 5e, but it's been expanded, and they actually went one step further where now you can actually publish it and charge for it if you want. So it is an e-publishing site for self-publishing your D&D adventures and other content that is set in the Forgotten Realms.
So it has to be realms.
Yes, this is only the Forgotten Realms for right now. They said they might expand it at some point, but right now anything set in the Forgotten Realms is fair game.
Aha. Amazing how many modules that people are planning on running are going to suddenly be converted into Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to see a glut of Forgotten Realms content. But it includes everything in the realm. So if you want to use Dritz if you want to create an adventure and you want to have Dritz in your adventure, you can now do that if you want, per the SRD and the OGL, and you can put it up on the Dungeon Masters Guild and sell it if you would like. But the thing to remember is if you do charge for it, you can actually put it up for free as well, too. But if you do charge for it, Wizards is going to take a cut of that. And also the site that is hosting it, it's One Bookshelf, which is the company behind D&D Classics, Drive-Thru RPG Now. So it's based on that backend and that cart system. That's the company that's actually doing the selling part of it. They are taking, and I think I read they take up to like 50% of it.
Yikes.
So you've got to sell a crap load of your things if you plan on making money this way. But I guess if you make an awesome adventure and everybody buys it, you could make some money off of it. But I did know, I haven't looked today, but I looked over the weekend. I kept looking. And there was quite a few of them up there that were actually free. So there is some free content. And some of them, most of them were costing anywhere from like $1, $2, $3. There was a few that were like crazy price. There was one that was like $79.99.
What?
And I thought, yeah, you're nuts. But so we'll see. I'm assuming at some point the market is going to like settle down and people are going to find the good sweet spot to charge for stuff that people are willing to buy and the authors are willing to make whatever they're going to make. Because like I said, you're going to get 50% taken out the top. So if you're charging $1 for your mod, 50% of that is going to be taken up right away, so you're only going to be making 50 cents on that. So keep that in mind when you price, but then again, it's kind of the old economics thing. If you price it too high, nobody's going to buy it. If you price it too low, you're not going to make money on it. So you got to find that sweet spot. And I'm sure the market will find that, and people will find what people are willing to spend. But there's a ton of content up there already, so check that out.
Yeah, but if you're planning on posting it for free anyways, then throwing it up at $1,
right? Yeah,
is just, well, it's maybe only 50 cents a pop, but at least it's 50 cents more than you were originally planning on.
And then I know some people were kind of complaining about the whole, they're taking 50% off the top thing. One of the authors that put something up, he said, since the DM's Guild opened today, I have officially made more than $10. Who needs the lottery?
The sarcasm is sharp there.
Yeah, exactly. So check out the Dungeon Masters Guild and feel free to create something for all of us to go through, because you can do that now with Forgotten Realms and some Wizards IP. So it's good to see. Like I said, this has been rumored for a long time. They have been talking about they were going to do something like this, and they wanted to do something like this, and the D&D community wanted something like this, so it's glad to see Wizards actually figured out a way to do this. And overall, it's been pretty positive, the response to this. So the link to the site is in the show notes if you want to check out the Dungeon Masters Guild and maybe buy some stuff.
And how's this tie in with the Adventures League?
Well, it ties into the Adventures League because it is now free to everybody now. All of the Adventure League content is up on the Dungeon Masters Guild website for you to purchase. And they range from $2.99 to $3.99 a adventure module. It depends what module it is. How the Adventures League used to work is you could only get them if you were playing in a game store that was running the adventure, and then you had to ask the game store owner for the password for the Adventures League website. And that password constantly changed. So if you didn't get on there fast enough, you would have to see if the game shop owner had the password, and he oftentimes, or I guess he or she, did not always have the password, so it was kind of a nightmare if you actually wanted to run these. And technically, you weren't even supposed to be able to run these anywhere but a game store that was participating in the Adventure League.
Oh, good grief.
Well, all that has changed now. You can buy these over on the DM's Guild site, and you can legally run these anywhere you would like to. So you can run them at home. You could maybe, get a conference room at your local library and have a D&D game day or something at a library and run the Adventures League stuff. That's illegal. And any of your experience, you need to keep track on your log sheets for the Adventure League. That's how that works as well, too. There is, and Brack Barefeet's in the chat room, and he's saying, can you run it in the bathroom? You could, sir, if you wanted to.
Why? I don't know.
It'd be kind of crowded in the bathroom, but hey, you could run them in the bathroom. You can run them anywhere. So yeah, so you can check out, currently all 44 of the Adventure League adventures are up, and they did say that as new Adventure League series seasons start, they will be up on there for sale as well.
Then let's head into the Fantasy Grounds, who have updated to include the D&D 5th edition SRD.
They jumped right on this. I'm kind of thinking since they are an official partner to Wizards, they knew this was coming.
Yeah, they had to.
Because the same day the Dungeon Masters Guild opened, Fantasy Grounds updated their software, and they included all of the stuff that is in the SRDs. If you use Fantasy Grounds and you want to create some modules or anything, all of the stuff that is included in the OLG and the SRD is now available to you on Fantasy Grounds as well. So you can create Forgotten Realms content, everything you can use is in there. And the cool thing about this is it's a free update. They didn't charge for this. So if you already own Fantasy Grounds, you should have an update waiting for you. Just update, and you will see that then when you open up your tool section, you'll see all of the updated content in there.
I guess that's nice. So let's head into Green Ronin, who has released their plans for 2016. And you can get these plans, for 5 gold and a party?
Oh, nice tie-in, Pineleaf. That well played, sir. That was good. Yes, Chris Paramus posted over on the Green Ronin website that they got a busy 2016 plan. They are not holding back on their plans for what they're going to do in this new year. They started out with Fantasy Age. Chris Paramus did say Fantasy Age has been a huge hit for them. It's already in its second printing, and he's pretty sure they're going to need to go and add a third printing later on in the year. The first bit of support coming out for Fantasy Age is going to be the Game Master's Kit. That's going to consist of a hardback screen, 4 reference cards, and the often neglected, not used if you're a Dungeon Master or Game Master, I use one all the time, the Combat Tracker that you can write on with your wet or dry erase markers. That makes it so nice.
Well, I don't know, because I always lose the markers and wind up using a scrap piece of paper instead.
Yeah, I guess you could do the old-fashioned way, just paper, but it's cooler when you can just take, a paper towel and just wipe it off and keep it right. Your players are impressed, trust me.
If you say so.
But there's more coming for Fantasy Age.
More?
They're going to have a Beastery coming out, which is scheduled to come out sometimes later this spring. And that is going to include some all-new monsters that you can throw at your players if you're running a Fantasy Age campaign. And then we'll move on to Titan's Grave. They are putting together a proper Titan's Grave, a world book. The exact title of that is to be announced. That's going to provide a lot more detail about the locations on that snazzy map. That's Chris Paramus' words, not mine. Meanwhile, they are often, as well, moving into production on Season 2 of Titan's Grave. That is going to start shooting later this month. Once that airs, he said dates are going to be announced on Geek and Sundry's website soon. They are going to release the second adventure book, similar to the format of the first one. And my guess is what's going to happen is that book will come out probably the last week or right after the show airs, because if it's anything like the first book, it's whatever they're doing on the show, that's the book they're using, so you can get majorly spoiled if you buy the book. So I would assume they're going to kind of wait until towards the end of the season to release the book. But we'll see.
I don't know. I guess I got the impression from the article that it was more of a generic book rather than the...
Yeah, see, I didn't get that impression, but maybe I just totally read it wrong.
Well, then, we'll see which was right. But you do have a point there, is that if that is a more generic one, then there'll probably be another book with is specific to the campaign again right afterwards.
Right, yeah, I would assume that's what it's going to do. But that is not all. Green Ronin has more plans.
More?
Yeah, I told you, they're just crazy this year. Dragon Age RPG is still getting some love from them. With the release of the Dragon Age core rulebook a few months ago, the full game rules are under one cover for the first time ever. That has sold out in its first print run, and they are doing a second and probably a third for that as well. And they also have a revised Dragon Age Game Master's Kit, which will be coming out soon. And that's going to be out about the same time as the Fantasy Age one that we talked about. And do you remember Mutants and Masterminds, Pineleaf?
Mutants and Masterminds?
It's still around. I was shocked. I didn't know the game was even still around. But apparently it's around still. It's huge. People still love it. And Green Ronin is still supporting it.
Okay.
Which they are kicking off this year with the Cosmic Handbook for Mutants and Masterminds. That's going to let you take your superpowers beyond Earth with spaceship aliens and galactic empires. And that is actually up for PDF right now for $5, or you can wait later on in the month and you can get yourself a hardbound copy of that. And they are going to do a little bit of work on Pathfinder as well with Freeport, the city adventure for the Pathfinder RPG. So I'm telling you, Green Ronin is... I'll be impressed if they actually do everything they said, because Chris Paramus actually said there was more that he didn't talk about that they have planned to. So you can click over on the article in the show notes and read the full text of this, because I just kind of skimmed over it. Let me tell you, they got a lot of stuff planned for this year.
Right, and we'll see how much of it they actually succeed in completing.
Indeed.
And now let's see what we managed to complete last week. Did you do anything interesting last week in DDO?
I actually had a fairly busy week in game. Let's start with my level 21 rogue on Kenneth. Was in Evening Star with Bonnie. She was actually on the character that she was getting ready to do a TR on. She needed just a little more experience before she could do that. So we ran some quests. We ran Impossible Demands, the Unquiet Graves, and the Lost Thread. The Lost Thread actually bugged out on us, so we couldn't finish it. We think we determined what happened is, if you know that quest, there is some slaves that the boss sends in, and you have to kill them, and then after you kill them, that triggers the boss battle. But what happened is the boss was still doing his dialogue, and Bonnie did some spell she had. I don't know what she did. He wiped all of them out at once, and the boss was still talking, and then he never triggered. So we think it was Bonnie's fault that she killed everything too quick. So I just blamed it on her. We filled out.
So instead of Bonnie Bew, is Bonnie Pew.
Because I looked up and I'm like, "What did you do? They're all dead." And she's like, "I killed them. I killed them all." And I'm like, "I see that." And as I said, the boss was still doing his dialogue, so I think that kind of broke it. She did fill out a ticket, but we waited like 15 minutes. The GM never popped on, but this was like, it was like 1:30 or 2 in the morning. So I don't know if they have live GMs in game 24 hours a day anymore like they used to. I'm kind of thinking they don't. That's why we didn't get an answer, but that was fine. So she closed the tickets, and we just left the quest. We'll finish it or something at some point. So that was it with her. Then I stayed in Evening Star.
Oh, yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
This character that you wanted to TR, was it a sorcerer that has a tendency to go into melee combat?
It was.
Yeah, okay.
So her sorcerer is not a sorcerer anymore, from what I'll have to ask her what she decided to do with it. But that is the one. She wanted to get rid of the sword-wielding sorcerer that she was using. Then, like I said, I stayed in Evening Star just myself, and I did the Mask of Deception. I did that on hard. Then I popped over on my Shader Kai, still running those Devil Gambits quests, trying to get the drops. Still no drops whatsoever. Is it too much to ask for that quiver? Is it really too much?
Apparently so.
And Bonnie is actually in the chat, and she is saying Altonia is a rogue now. So she is not a sorcerer that hits things with swords anymore. She is now a rogue that stabs things, I assume. Or maybe she's a rogue that casts spells. I don't know. This is Bonnie we're talking about. The level 7 warlock that is taking part in Lessa's fan service experience, that of course is Count Von Count from Sesame Street. I count things as I go through my quest, and I counted a lot of things last night. I got to count my first death too.
Uh-oh.
Ooh, yes. 1 death, just 1. 12 more to go. Fire Trap got me. We were doing Seal of Chanticleer, and we were doing that on hard. We actually did the first one, the blockade. We did that one on elite, and I was scared to death because this is it's heavy roleplay, light permadeath. If you don't know what the fan service experiment is that Les is doing, what you do is you take a well-known TV character and you are role-playing as that character. So the whole time that you're playing in-game, you have to role-play as your character. So I myself am, like I said, Count Von Count from Sesame Street, so I tend to count things as we go along. So that's what that is. And then it's light permadeath because you can die as many times as whatever your con is. So my con is 13, so I can die 12 more times. And once I die 12 more times, I'm dead permanently. I'm gone. I have to roll a new character, which is going to be sad, but we'll see.
But of course, whenever you have that opportunity to increase a attribute.
That's right. I'm going for con, you know it.
Well, of course, there is a disadvantage of doing that, and that is you don't improve your character's other abilities if you do that.
But I live longer, though. I'll live forever. I'll just keep adding con.
Living forever!
Exactly. And that is all I did on KNet other than what I did with you. We'll let you talk about that. And that was it for DDO, but I did do some other games outside of DDO that are D&D related, though. I jumped back into Sword Coast Legends. I continued on with the main story. I'm still enjoying the main story. I'm kind of sensing there's going to be a twist coming because I kind of see how the tone of the story is going. And I think I know what it is. And if I'm right, I'm going to be very, very sad. But we'll see if I'm right on that. No spoilers if you haven't played it. Because Sword Coast Legends, the story is really good. Still not digging the multiplayer aspect of Sword Coast. Even with all the patches, its multiplayer still not that great. But if you want a great single-player RPG that's very Neverwinter Nights-like, Sword Coast Legends is your game. The story is amazingly well-written. We'll see how much I play it after I go through the story, but we'll decide on that. And then I also jumped back in to Neverwinter.
What?
I know, I said I wouldn't do it, but couple of people that I'm, quote, friends with on Twitter, they were talking about Neverwinter, and they started a guild, and they wanted some people that kind of played. Everybody in the guild is just like a casual player. They don't play very often. They just kind of jump in and jump out, which is basically how I played Neverwinter. So I jumped back. I actually had to reinstall it. So I reinstalled it, jumped back in, leveled up my ranger, which I don't even remember. I think I'm level 8, maybe. I gotta actually check that. I'll add that to the show notes. I think my ranger's up to level 8 now. And then I also rolled up a tiefling warlock, and I'm level 6 with the warlock.
Wait, you didn't roll up a gnome?
See, you said the word, Pineland. I was not prepared.
Gnomes are coming. They're coming for you.
So there you go. That's what I did this week. How about you? What were you up?
We will begin with our little Wednesday adventure where we went with Bonnie Bew again, who has been working with us the last few weeks, and she decided to give us a guided tour through the Shroud. All right, we were actually participants in this also, but we were rather light in numbers, 3 people. And at the beginning, we're speculating, all right, how far will we get in this? We're thinking that maybe, now I wasn't familiar with it, but I think the two of you decide that we'll get through part 1 and maybe get stopped around halfway through part 2.
Yeah, that's actually what we thought.
Right, that's what you thought. And I know I got killed a lot in there, which is naturally enough whenever I am on something like that. So we went in there. Bonnie was level 30, I believe, at the time.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right. So she was level 30 on a character that, as you heard, she was trying to get to a point where she could TR it. What else did she have to do if she was already level 30?
I really don't know. I think she needed, she found out since that was an iconic, she actually needed more experience than she thought she needed, I think was.
Oh, you have to go beyond 30?
I'm waiting for her. I'm stalling for time. Waiting for her
okay.
to chime in the. Yeah, there was like some reason she couldn't TR at the time. So yeah.
All right, so she gives a little guided tour through the Shroud, and in the end, we actually managed to finish the entire dungeon. Thankfully, she apparently had a plentiful supply of resurrection scrolls on her or something like that.
Bonnie said she needed heart seeds for an iconic heart.
Ah,
that's what she needed.
Oh,
yes,
okay. Whatever heart seeds are.
She did have res scrolls. She had to res a lot.
Yeah, yes, that's right. Because we had no clerics in the party.
Well, then again, in our defense, we were only 3 people in the Shroud. But
yes, we were only 3 people in the Shroud, and apparently 3 people getting through the Shroud, even with a level 30 in the party, isn't exactly the most common thing in the world.
But the whole point of the thing was to actually get you into a raid so you could see a raid and do a raid, which we succeeded at, and we actually succeeded at doing the full Shroud as well.
Right. Well, of course, it's not like if you're when I call a real raid is when you have a group of people at level with each other, but that's going to be something very hard to get on a heroic raid at the moment.
Yeah, and Bonnie and I talked about it because we played. That's when we were running the Evening Star stuff. Is after you had logged out Wednesday night, and we kind of figured if we would have done this before Legendary Shroud came out, we could have filled up our LFG pretty quickly because people ran Heroic Shroud like all the time. Anytime LFG was put up, it would fill up. So the problem is we waited too long to get you in there because there's not that many people running Heroic. Everybody wants to do the Legendary.
Legendary Shroud now.
So we'll have to get you to 30 and then we'll have to run Legendary.
So the thing that killed Heroic Shroud is Legendary Shroud.
Legendary Shroud, exactly. And there is video proof of us doing this. It's up on my YouTube page if you want to see it, because we were twitching it at the time. So the link will be in the show notes if you want to watch the craziness and the hilariousness that was 3 people in the Shroud and Pineleaf being scared to death at the blades. Shevaroth blades and Pineleaf, spoiler alert, do not get along well.
And then on my Ranger, I started at level 2 and on Korthos Island and ran Misery's Peak. At the end of Misery's Peak, I gained enough XP to level, but I postponed leveling because I was about to do an episode of my video series, and I decided to run Information in the Key for that one because I've done that particular dungeon so rarely, because I keep on forgetting it exists because I never go in that area. To the tavern, and the only reason I was in that tavern was because I was turning in some items in order to get a cookie up there, because that's where the turn is for the jester is that I was going there. So once I did that, then I went inside the tavern and of course saw the quest there, so I decided to do Information is Key. After that, I leveled up to 3. Then I ran Garrison's Missing Pack, Explosive Situation, Butcher's Path, and the Smuggler's Warehouse. And that is it for my week. So therefore, if you would like to help support DDO players, you can go to the donations page where you can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. And there you'll find rewards, including a mention on DDO Players News or even be a guest host with us. We did not have any iTunes reviews, but we do have a featured comment from Fuzzy Duck 81 who left a comment on our last episode. Good luck with building your green steel crossbow. Heroic Green Steel is a beloved old crafting system that lets you make some really nice gear, and not necessarily phenomenal on your first life due to the time needed to gather everything and craft it, but it's only very recently that some of the new named items have caught up, and being able to pull the green steel out of the bank is one of those oh yeah moments when you are leveling a TRE. I recommend looking into working out either RAD2 Radiance, since you have a no-save blindness effect on critical hits, incidentally, better than the new legendary Green Steel, which is a flat 5% chance on any hit, or Ooze 2, since you have a chance, 2% or so, I think, on the hit to spawn a Black Pudding. Great for repeater users due to the firing rate, and particularly for artificers if you use your dog, since the augment summoning and similar effects will boost this too. And it's just fun being able to dispatch the dog and squelchy horde against your foes, even if they're doing too much damage at higher levels. At the very least, the gunk the place pretty effectively to stop enemies from getting on you while you pew them safely at range.
Well, great. I can see you just spawning black puddings left and right now. At it again. There's another black pudding.
We have no emails this week, but if you'd like to send us one, you can send it to podcast@ddoplayers.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, the Players Alliance, @PlayersAlly, DDO Players, @DDO Players, Draculetta, @Draculetta_72, and Pineleaf, @Pineleaf Needles. The Players Alliance has 5 live shows every Monday at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. We have DDO Players News. Every other Thursday at 9 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have XP Quest. Every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have Local Players News. Every other Saturday after Local Players News, we have Tales of the Free Folk. And on the last Friday of each month at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have Lotro Academy Extra Credit. You can join us for our live shows at DDOplayers.com/live. That's all for tonight. This is Pineleaf Needles reminding you to quest responsibly.